You step up to the tee, you take a breath, you swing as smooth as you can, and you watch that little white ball climb out straight, hang for a second, then bend hard to the right and dive into the trees. Gone. Again. If that is your golf, stay with me, because almost everything you have been told about your slice is backwards. It is not your swing speed. It is not your age. It is not your body. It comes down to one thing your club face is doing at the moment it meets the ball. And a $5 can you can buy at any drugstore will show it to you the very first time you try it. Here is the part nobody sells you. This is not new. Golfers knew how to kill a slice more than 100 years ago, long before anybody had a reason to make you forget. By the end of this, I will hand you a simple checkpoint written down in a book from 1957 that squares the face for good. And you already own everything you need to start today. Let me tell you how I got here, because I earned every bit of this the hard way. I started playing golf late, in my early 50s, after my knees said no more tennis. And from the first month, I had a slice that could curve around a building, not a gentle fade, a banana. The kind where your buddies stop watching the ball and start watching the trees to see where it disappears. I did what a reasonable man does. I threw money at it. That was my whole approach to life back then. Something broken? Buy the newer version. Something hard? Pay somebody. I spent decades treating every problem like a shopping trip, and golf was no different. First, I bought a new driver. Not just any driver. The one on the rack with the big sticker that said anti-slice. $450. The kid in the pro shop swore it had special weighting to close the face for me. I remember standing at the counter, credit card out, feeling smart. I hit it twice as far into the trees. The slice was longer now. That was the only difference. So I figured the club was not enough. I bought the offset irons. I bought the special grips. I bought 2 different training aids off late night television. One of them a plastic thing you strap to your wrist that beeps at you. I bought a dozen so-called anti-slice golf balls that promised low spin. All in over about 3 years. I am not exaggerating when I say I spent close to $2,000 trying to buy my way out of a curve, and I still sliced it every single time. Here is what I could not understand back then. Why would a man spend $2,000 and get nothing when the fix turned out to cost less than a sandwich? That question is the whole reason I am talking to you right now, because the answer is not an accident. But before I get to who benefited from my confusion, I have to show you the thing that finally cracked it open. And it starts with a number that stopped me cold. For years I believed my slice came from my swing path. Everybody told me so. Swing more from the inside. Stop coming over the top. Every article, every free tip, every well-meaning friend on the tee box said the same thing. Your path is the problem. So I spent 2 seasons trying to fix my path, twisting myself into knots, and the ball still curved. Then I read something that made me feel like a fool for all that effort. Modern launch monitors, the radar units the teaching pros use now, have measured exactly what makes a ball start where it starts and curve how it curves. And the finding is not a small thing. With a driver, the direction your club face is pointing at impact controls somewhere around 85% of where that ball starts its journey. Your swing path, the thing I obsessed over for 2 years, controls only the small slice that is left. Read that again the way I had to. The face, not the path. 85%. The curve works the same way. A ball slices because the face is open relative to the direction the club is moving. Open face, that is the crime. The swing path is barely a witness. I had been fixing the witness and letting the criminal walk free every weekend for 2 years. The word for this understanding is not new either. Physicist Theodore Jorgensen laid out the geometry of it in a book called The Physics of Golf, published in 1994, where he broke the golf swing down into plane forces and angles. The pros later gave it a nickname, but the truth underneath is just physics. The face rules. Everything else is a supporting actor. So I had my culprit. My club face was open when it hit the ball. That felt like progress until I hit the wall that every slicer hits, because I could not see my club face at impact. Nobody can. It happens in less than half a second, faster than your eye can catch, and no amount of thinking about it while you swing will show you the truth. That is the trap. You cannot fix what you cannot see, and that is exactly where I would have stayed stuck forever if I had not gotten angry enough to ask a different question. Because now I want to tell you who profited from me staying confused all those years. Think about it from the other side of the counter. If your slice is really caused by one invisible thing, your open club face, then the honest fix is to teach you to feel it and square it. That fix is free. It makes nobody any money. You learn it once and you never come back. But if your slice is a mystery, if it is 100 different things, if it is your equipment and your grip and your path and your tempo and your gear all at once, well, now there is a business. Now you need a $400 driver with special weights. Now you need offset irons. Now you need the low spin balls and the beeping wrist gadget and the 6-week lesson package. Now you are a customer for life. I am not saying anybody sat in a room and plotted against weekend golfers. I am saying an entire industry grew up around treating the symptom and never once curing the disease, because the cure does not sell. An anti-slice driver does not square your face. It just hides your open face for one shot with a little extra weight in the heel, and the moment your swing gets a touch faster, the slice comes roaring back longer than before. Mine sure did. The old teachers knew the real cause. Go back and read the golf instruction from the early 1900s, and it is all about the hands and the face, the grip, the squaring of the blade. That was the whole conversation, because back then a set of clubs was expensive and made by hand, and nobody was going to sell you a new driver every 18 months. So they sold you the only thing that actually worked: knowledge. They taught you to control the face with your hands, and once you had it for life. Then the equipment got cheap to make and expensive to sell, and the conversation quietly changed. The face got buried under a mountain of gadgets, and 2 generations of golfers, me included, grew up thinking the answer was always something you could buy, but I still had my problem. I knew the face was open, I just could not see it happening. So the question that finally saved me was simple. How do I make the invisible visible without spending another dime I do not have? And that is when an old friend, a man in his 70s who had played since he was a boy, showed me the $5 trick that changed everything. We were on the range. I was slicing, of course. He watched me for a while, not saying much, and then he walked to his bag and pulled out a plain white can. It looked like something from a bathroom cabinet. It was foot spray, the odorless kind you use for athlete's foot, the kind that leaves a fine white powder. He had bought it at the drugstore for about $5, and he told me that same little can had been in his golf bag for 3 seasons. He shook it up and sprayed a light, even coat across the whole face of my driver. The face went chalky white, top to bottom, heel to toe. Then he handed it back and said, "Now hit one and let us see the truth." I hit my usual slice, and when I looked down at the face, there it was, plain as day. A clean little dot punched through the white powder. But it was not in the center of the face where I always assumed I was hitting. It was way out toward the toe, the far end of the club face, near the tip. I did not understand why that mattered yet. But I understood that for the first time in 3 years, my club face was telling me the truth. And the truth was nothing like the story in my head. Here is why that toe strike is the whole ball game. And this is the part almost no weekend golfer knows. When you hit the ball out toward the toe of the club head twists. It physically rotates open in your hands at the moment of contact because the ball struck it away from the center of gravity. The engineers have a name for this twisting. They call it gear effect because the ball and the face grip each other and turn like 2 gears. A toe strike throws the face open and puts extra side spin on the ball. Slice spin, So every time I reached out and caught it on the toe, I was manufacturing my own slice right there at impact, and I never knew it because I could not see where I was hitting the face. The foot spray showed me in one swing what 2 years of lessons and $2,000 in equipment never did. My strike was out on the toe, my face was twisting open, and the ball had no choice but to curve into the trees. Now, why does that matter so much for you? Because this is the cheapest, most honest coach you will ever own. That $5 can does not care about your ego. It does not sell you anything. It just paints your mistakes in white powder so you can finally stop guessing. You spray the face, you hit 5 balls, and you read the pattern. If your dots are out toward the toe, you have found a huge piece of your slice, and you found it for the price of a coffee. Let me stop right here, because I know exactly who is watching. Some of you are thinking this sounds like a project. You are thinking you are not handy, you do not have a range membership, you do not want homework, you just want to stop embarrassing yourself on Saturday. This next part is for you, and it is the easiest thing in the whole video. If you want to go deeper on exactly why the face controls everything and how golfers a century ago already had this figured out, I put it all together in a short digital book called Fix First. It walks through the same chain of evidence you are hearing right now, with the old sources laid out so you can see them for yourself. No subscriptions, no upsells, just the permanent knowledge written down and yours to keep. You can find the link in the description below. With that foundation in place, let me show you just how lopsided that number really is. You do not even need a golf course. You do not need a driving range. Tonight, in your garage or your backyard, take whatever club gives you the most trouble. Get a can of that odorless foot spray, or honestly even a stick of chalk or a light dusting of baby powder works in a pinch. Coat the face until it is white. Now set down a few of those plastic practice balls, the little whiffle ones, or even just make slow, easy swings, brushing an old range ball on a mat. Make contact 5 or 6 times, then look at the face. That is it. That is the whole first step. You are not fixing anything yet. You are just gathering evidence. And I promise you, when you see those dots for the first time, when you see with your own eyes that you are not hitting where you thought, something clicks that no article ever explained to you. You stop feeling helpless. You start feeling like a detective who just found the fingerprint. It cost you $5 in 10 minutes, and it works with things you already have in the house right now. But seeing the toe strike is only half the story, because once I could see it, I still had to fix it. And the fix took me back 100 years to a couple of names most golfers have never heard. The first name is Harry Vardon. If you have never heard of him, that is a shame, because he might be the most important golfer who ever lived. Vardon was a British professional around the turn of the last century in the 1890s and early 1900s, and he won the British Open 6 times, which is still a record more than 100 years later. And Vardon gave the world the grip that most good players still use today. We call it the Vardon grip, or the overlapping grip, where the pinky of your bottom hand rides on top between the fingers of your top hand. Now, why did a man that long ago care so much about the grip? Because Vardon understood, without any radar or launch monitor, the thing it took me 3 years and $2,000 to learn. He understood that your hands are the only thing touching the club, so your hands are the only thing that controls the face. Get the grip right and the face squares itself. Get it wrong and no amount of effort will save you. And here is what almost every slicer has wrong. A weak grip. Now, weak has nothing to do with how hard you squeeze. In golf, a weak grip means your hands are turned too far toward the target, too far to the left for a right-handed player. When your hands sit there, the face wants to hang open through impact, and you slice. It is almost impossible to slice when you understand this. The fix is what the old teachers called a stronger grip, and it costs nothing. You rotate both hands a little away from the target to the right for a right-hander until you look down and you can see 2, maybe 3 knuckles on your top hand. That is the checkpoint, 2 to 3 knuckles looking back up at you. Old Harry Vardon was teaching a version of this before your grandfather was born, because back then knowledge was the only thing worth selling. When I first strengthened my grip to where I could see those knuckles, it felt awful. It felt wrong. It felt like I was going to hook it into the next county. That is the feeling every slicer describes, and there is a reason for it. You have sliced for so long that open feels normal and square feels crazy. Push through that feeling. Trust the knuckles. And here is a $5 trick on top of the $5 trick, because this is the one that made it stick for me. I took a thin strip of colored tape, the kind of cloth athletic tape you can get at any drugstore, and I put a short mark on the top of my grip, right where the edge of my top thumb should sit. A little runway. Now, every single time I take my grip, I line my hand up to that mark, and my hands go on the exact same way every time. No more guessing, no more some shots strong and some shots weak. One mark, one grip, one squared face, shot after shot. That strip of tape cost me maybe 50 cents out of a $5 roll, and it did more for my golf than the $400 driver ever dreamed of. So now I had two things: the foot spray to see my strike, and the strong grip with the tape mark to square my face. And my slice shrank from a banana to a gentle little fade. That alone would have been worth everything. But the real secret, the one I promised you at the start, is the checkpoint that locked it in for good. And for that, I have to tell you about a very quiet book. In 1957, one of the greatest ball strikers who ever lived put his method down on paper. His name was Ben Hogan, and the book is called 5 Lessons, The Modern Fundamentals of Golf. Men who have played their whole lives still keep a worn copy in the garage. Hogan had fought his own demons with the ball early in his career, and when he finally figured out how to control the face, he wrote it all down in plain steps. That book has been in print for almost 70 years, and yet the single most useful idea in it for a slicer is one that most people skim right past. Hogan taught that you cannot control the face if you only think about it at impact. It is too fast. Instead, you check the face at 2 slow, visible points in the swing, points where your eyes actually have time to see the truth. And this is the forgotten checkpoint that killed my slice for good. Here it is. Take the club back slowly until your hands are about waist high, so the club shaft is roughly parallel to the ground, pointing behind you. Now stop and look at the club head. Look at the toe, the tip end of the club. If your face is square, the toe should be pointing more or less straight up at the sky, toe up, like the blade of an axe standing on its handle. If instead the whole face is turned so it looks up at the sky, lying open like an open book, that is your slice, caught red-handed halfway back before you have even started down. An open face, there will be an open face at the ball, every time. And then you check it again on the other side. Swing through to where your hands are waist high in the follow-through, and look again, toe up again, square going back, square coming through. Hogan called these the moments where the swing tells the truth, and he was right, because at those 2 slow points you can actually see and feel what your hands are doing to the face. I started doing this at home with no ball at all, just slow swings in the garage, stopping at waist high, checking the toe, toe up going back, toe up coming through, over and over, teaching my hands what square feels like, until it stopped feeling crazy and started feeling like home. It is free. It needs no course, no range, no gadget. Just you and a club and 30 slow repetitions a night. And here is where it all came together, all 3 pieces, the way it was always meant to. I would make my slow swings and check the toe, Hogan's checkpoint from 1957. I would set my grip to the tape mark so I could see my knuckles, Vardon's fundamental from 100 years before that. And then I would spray the face with that $5 can and go hit real balls, watching my strike creep in from the toe toward the center where it belonged. The face squared, the strike centered, the gear effect stopped twisting me open, and the ball, for the first time in my life, started dead straight and stayed there. I stood on that range and I hit 10 straight shots that did not curve, and I am not ashamed to tell you I got a little emotional about it. because it hit me all at once how much I had wasted. Not just the money, though $2,000 is real money, the years. 3 seasons of walking off the course angry. 3 seasons of my playing partners going quiet after my tee shot. 3 seasons of believing something was wrong with me, when the whole time the answer was older than my grandfather and cost less than lunch. That is the thing I want you to sit with. Every weekend you keep buying the story that your slice is a mystery. You pay for it. You pay in money at the pro shop. You pay in balls lost in the woods. And those balls are not cheap anymore. But mostly you pay in the quiet belief that you just are not any good at this game, when the truth is you were never taught the one thing that actually matters. You were sold everything except the fix. So let me put the whole cure in your hands, plain and simple, the way that old man on the range put it in mine. Buy a $5 can of odorless foot spray and use it to see where you strike the face, because a toe strike twists the face open and manufactures your slice. Strengthen your grip until you see 2 or 3 knuckles, the way Harry Vardon taught before 1900, and mark it with a strip of tape so your hands go on the same way every time. And run Ben Hogan's checkpoint from 1957, toe up at waist high, going back, toe up at waist high, coming through, until square is the only thing your hands know how to do. None of it needs a subscription, none of it wears out. None of it will be obsolete next season when the new driver comes out. You learn it once, and like those old players 100 years ago, you have it for life. I recovered something that had been quietly taken from me, and it was never a product. It was knowledge. The plain, cheap, permanent kind that convenience culture buried on purpose because nobody can put a price tag on it twice. If you are the kind of person who would rather own a skill than rent a gadget, who trusts what is proven over what is advertised, then you already belong here. This is exactly the sort of thing we dig up and hand back to people, one forgotten method at a time. Now, do something for me. Go find your most reliable club, spray the face tonight, and come back and tell me in the comments. Were your dots out on the toe, right where mine were, or somewhere else entirely? I read these, and I promise the pattern you find will tell us both a lot. Do not just think it. Type it out and leave the comment, because this is the part where you commit to actually doing it instead of just watching. And if you want to keep recovering the knowledge they hoped you would forget, come along with us. Next time I am going to show you the $2 fix hiding in your kitchen drawer that stops your golf grips from going slick and hard, the little trick the club builders used before anybody sold you overpriced replacement grips. It is even simpler than this one, and once you see it, you will never pay for a regrip the same way again. Before you go, let me tell you where this goes next. Inside my membership, The Old Ways Almanac, I finish what this video started, walking you through the full square face checkpoints step by step. In there, you can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself, not some machine. You won't be doing it alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime,